kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'shtakavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'shtakavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'shtakavu lehar kodsho.
And now echoing what you are doing, we're going to sing. We're quoting someone else though. Whoever composed the Psalms, potentially King David. It's Lechuna Ranana. It's on page number 11 in the Siddur. Also, literally, Lechuna Ranana, literally, come on, let's all sing together. Page number 11, Lechuna Ranana.
This thing is so much fun. Lechune ranina la 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 la. Lechune ranina. Naria naria letzu yishenu. Nikad mafona betzoda. Naria naria letzu yishenu. Bismirut narialo. Lechune ranina. Lechune ranina la 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 la. Lechune ranina. Naria naria letzu yishenu. Nikad mafona betzoda. Naria naria letzu yishenu. Bismirut narialo. Lechune ranina. Lechune ranina la 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 la. Lechune ranina. Lechune ranina. Lechune ranina.
English, turning to page number 17. The Psalm on page number 17. Sing to Adonai a new song, for Adonai has wrought wonders. God's right hand and holy arm have brought deliverance. Adonai declared deliverance. As nations looked on, God's righteousness was revealed. God dealt faithfully and kindly with the house of Israel. The very ends of the earth saw our God's saving power. Call out to Adonai, all the earth. Break out in joyful singing. Sing to Adonai to the music of the lyre, lyre and voices making music together, with horns and shofar cries. Trumpet the presence of the sovereign Adonai. Let the sea and all that is in it roar. The earth and all who inhabit it thunder. Let rivers clap hands. The forces of nations, the forces of nature itself are calling out, not just the nations of the world, but the forces of the world itself, universe, are joining us in song every Shabbat. The world itself sings. L'charodi on page 23, which stanzas?
First, second, and last.
First two stanzas on page 23, last stanza on page 25.
dili kratkala, B'nai Shabbat nekavela, Lechado dili kratkala, B'nai Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zakor v'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el ham yuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shimo tikirat baliti la. Lechado di likrat kala, B'nai Shabbat nekavela, Lechado di likrat kala, B'nai Shabbat nekavela, likrat Shabbat lechu elcha, ki makor habracha, mirosh mikerat nesuha, sokma se Shabbatila. Lechado di likrat kala, B'nai Shabbat nekavela, Lechado di likrat kala, B'nai Shabbat nekavela. Bohi v'shalom matert bala, Gam b'simcha u'botzola, Toch emunei am zegula, Bohi chala, Lechado di likrat kala, B'nai Shabbat nekavela, Lechado di likrat kala, B'nai Shabbat nekavela.
We are seated. Turning to the Psalm for Shabbat herself. On page number 27 on the English side. This is a testimony to the importance of being grateful. Gratitude is woven into the Jewish calendar every week. Shabbat is not only a time for perhaps lighting candles and saying the prayer with the wine and eating challah. Shabbat is a time for pausing and offering gratitude for being part of the universe. Each and every one of you is a critical part of the universe, as much as planets and stars and gravity and the laws of physics. Each one of you is a celebration. And remember, symbolically, we turn our minds back to the book of Bereshit, Genesis, where that first couple is brought into the universe to celebrate gratitude. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. We rise to the Borchum on page 39b. Adonai, Amorach. Baruch Hanam Baruch Le'olam V'ed. And as we're seated, allow please the first bracha, the first blessing of the official evening service on the English side together. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space. You completed your work of creation on the seventh day, calling this day from one evening to the next, the holy Shabbat, and gave this day a rest in all its holiness to your people Israel, creator of day and night, rolling light before darkness and darkness from light, making day pass and bringing on the evening, distinguishing day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Chai v'kayom, tamidim lo chalelam voed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. In every night of the year, the second blessing of the evening service, the first blessing which speaks of the beauty of creation, the second speaks of the love of God that is permanent and that's enduring. Love is as permanent and enduring as the physical makeup of the universe. That's what those two blessings teach us. On the song sheet, it's in the halfway point. It's Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat olam, Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael am ha'ahavta. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. The song of the trees when wind stirs their leaves. The song of the earth when rain soothes its thirst. The song of the sea when waves are set free. The song of the sky when hummingbirds fly. Ahavat olam, Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael ha'ahavta. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. The song of the trees when wind stirs their leaves. The song of the earth when rain soothes its thirst. The song of the sea when waves are set free. The song of the sky when hummingbirds fly. Ahavat olam, Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael ha'ahavta. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema, page 41.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levacha, uv'chol nafshecha, uv'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anuki mitzavecha yam alavavecha, vishinantam levanecha, vidivartam bam, b'shivtecha v'techa, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shakbecha u'v'kamecha, u'v'shartam le'yahut al yadecha, ve'hayu le'totafot b'neinecha, u'tabtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'v'hisharecha.
moments of silence, page number 42. Adonai Elohechem emet. In a moment of Michamocha on page 44. Page 44, Michamocha.
Mi chamocha bohelim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar bakodesh. Norada ilo do sefele, norada ilo do sefele. Gaida da da ya da 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 da, gaida da da ya da 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 da, gaida da da ya da da da. Da 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 da. Mi chamocha bohelim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar bakodesh. Norada ilo do sefele, norada ilo do sefele, norada ilo do sefele.
The last line on page 44 on the English side, and then we'll turn back to the song sheet. And so it is written, Adonai has rescued Jacob and redeemed from the hand of those more powerful than he. Baruch atah Adonai, who redeemed the people Israel. And when we conclude this section of the service, which speaks of a celebration, every night we remind ourselves to celebrate having left slavery behind, and in some way, as a nation, being transformed, because we're attached to something much more powerful than human overlords. That's the Milchamocha. And that's why, for me, the Hashkivenu is so powerful, because the Hashkivenu speaks of the present day. And every one of us has his own fears, own anxieties, own troubles and concerns. And the prayer book tells us that we all have to pay attention to every one of us here and beyond this room. And we all call out collectively, oh God, help us all to lay down at night with a sense of hope and promise for the future that tomorrow will be better. That's the Hashkivenu. It's on the song sheet, the bottom of that main song sheet, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu mocheinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu mocheinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu, Sukkah shlomecha, lechayim ushalom, ata ve'adolam. Sometimes I lay under the moon and I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. For when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around. And all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't wanna fight no more. There be no more war, our children will pray. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. It's not about win or lose, 'cause we all lose when they feed on the souls of the innocent. Blood-drenched pavement, keep on moving though the water stayed raging. In this maze you can lose your way, your way. It might drive you crazy, but don't let it faze you, no way, no way. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. For when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around. And all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't wanna fight no more. There be no more war, our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu malcheinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu malcheinu lechayim. Ulechayim.
Verse number at the top of page 46.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בגדולה. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בגדולה. ובני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת בנפש, שבת בנפש, שבת בנפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את Hashabat ledorot sameri olam.
Page 46. Yitkadol v'yitkadash shemei rabban. V'almadi v'rakritim klutei b'chayechon u'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'galat u'v'zman kariv imru Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach L'olam Yomei Yomaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpar V'tamam V'yinasei V'yithadar V'yitale V'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha Rehu Le'lam Min Kol Berchata V'shirata Tush Bechata V'nechemota Ta'amiran V'yolmam Imeru. Before we rise, please turn to page 47, which is the standing prayer, the main prayer. We've been saying this every day for 2,000 years. And there's a daily version, a Shabbat version, a Passover, Shavuot, Sukkot version, a high holiday version, many different versions, but they all start the same and they all end the same. The middle is what gets changed depending upon the occasion of the week or the year. For 1900 some odd years, the blessing began, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, focusing on the Avot, the fathers. In the past 20, 30 years or so, there's been a growing awareness that we need to embrace our matriarchs as well, and that's what we have here, this other column, including the names of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And probably most Orthodox traditional synagogues only recite Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and many conservative synagogues maintain the form of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but I embrace the need to look at both halves of our Jewish community, not only the males, but the females. There's an entirety of Jewish experience. That's side note one. Note number two. Looking at the column where it says matriarchs and patriarchs, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, God of Sarah, God of Rebecca, God of Rachel, God of Leah, direct translation from the Hebrew. It would have saved ink and taken 6 seconds out of the Amida if it was God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, and not mentioning God of, God of, God of, God of, God of, God of, 7 times, the number 7, which reminds us of seeking wholeness and completion by embracing both sides of our community and our family. And when I was a child, I don't remember who told me this, but somebody gave me this insight, which I take hold of every single day. When we say God of, God of, God of, we have to pause. And we have to put ourselves in the reverential mindset of thinking, how does Abraham view God? How does Sarah view God? How do Isaac and Rebecca, each one, think of God? How might Rachel and Leah and Jacob, each one independently, separately, autonomously view God? And when we do that 7 times in the span of just a few moments, just to get started to pray, it gives us pause, and it also challenges us, because each one of us is bound to view God independently and differently and creatively from everyone else. And that's your kickstart tonight. We rise to silent prayer, pages 47 to 52, or a few moments of private meditation. in a moment on page 51. The prayer is the Shalom Rav. It's the bracha, the seventh blessing. 7 is symbolic. It's the best number we can come up with because it's God's favorite number. God created all reality in a tiered developmental process, culminating in the number 7. So God created all reality in that tiered process, culminating in number 7, and 7 must be a really good number. And every Amidah throughout the entire year ends with its 7th blessing, a prayer for peace. Shalom Rav. It's found here in the Hebrew and also in the red ink, the transliteration, Shalom Rav, a prayer for peace.
Shalom Rav o Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav o Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Ki atah melech hador lechol hashalom. Ki atah melech hador lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav o Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav o Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Etzov enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol etz ubechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav o Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav o Yisrael Amha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
On page 54. Excuse me. Yitkaral bikara shemei rabot be'am shmeru amen Yehei shmei rabam avarach olam liol me'ol maya Yit barak v'ish tamach v'yipar v'sei v'dar v'dalev shmei kudisha Rechu le'elam v'koberchata v'shirata tishbelchata v'nechamata da'amiram yom avimeru amen Kabel tzlata within the chesra kadbishim meru amen. Nishal timeru amen. Osesh momavi oseshal zimeru amen. When we pick up this book, whether it's this version or the blue and gray that preceded it for a span of 25 years, or any of another series of prayer books, you turn to the center somewhere and you're going to find the Shema. And all Jews know the Shema. We call it the main prayer, which means that we perpetuate an error, because Shema is not a prayer. It's in the prayer book. And so we get lazy and we jump to the conclusion, we mislabel as a prayer, but it's not a prayer. Shema is a directive. Shema Yisrael tells us that every Jew has to listen to every other Jew. And you and I know the old joke, two Jews in a room, how many opinions? At least three, we know that. So great day in the morning, maybe that's why it's not a prayer. Maybe it'd be more of a statement of halavai, miraculousness. But seriously, Shema is a directive that every Jew around the world is supposed to listen to every other Jew simultaneously. We're supposed to listen to each other. We're supposed to hear that somebody else is speaking, maybe pausing, maybe breathing, perhaps objecting, considering disagreeing. We are commanded by Torah to listen to each and every one of us, and everyone else has to listen to you. And we recite the Shema in the traditional form 3 times a day. And the Shema is the introduction to the Ve'ahavta, which means you will love God. So the first step in loving God is paying attention to other people. The first step in loving God is paying attention and listening to other people. And you may not agree with them, and they may not agree with you. But the demand of Torah, in order to love God, in order to express love of the foundational element of all reality and beyond, the aspiration of sanctity, is to listen to other people, to let them be heard. And they need to expect that I and you will be heard in turn as well. That's the Shema. And I mention this as a directive today because I don't know how else to respond. And I seek Jewish life to anchor me in the turbulence of the reality of the day. And I got kicked in the stomach today. And I haven't been able to catch my breath, literally or symbolically, since this morning news. I think we all got kicked in the stomach this morning when we learned of a decision that overturned what you and I have taken for granted for half a century. And it taught me, and it taught all of us, that we cannot take anything for granted. We cannot take for granted the presumption that all of our voices will be heard. We cannot take for granted the presumption that there will be a pause in the clamor and the noise so that each and every other voice will be heeded and attended to and processed and allowed to be out in the world, which is the fulfillment of the love of the creator of the entire universe, according to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which you and I know by heart. And frankly, as many times as I sat down and tried to make some notes, I kept losing my train of thought. And I was not able to concentrate. I kept saying, no, this doesn't work. No, this doesn't work. No, this doesn't work. This paragraph doesn't make sense. This thought doesn't make sense, because I cannot process the overwhelming sense of shock and loss. And I'm only one man, but anticipating potentially the fear, the terror of uncountable millions of women and their families and their households, whether they are alone or whether they are with someone or someone's or not, across the landscape of who knows how many years until something else may change. And I'm scared because what I thought would always be here ever since I was a young child, has been taken away. And now I'm not sure what else might be taken away. If something as fundamental as the healthcare element has been deprived admittedly by process, by judicial discretion and discernment, then what else might be removed from you, me, anyone else at some point in the future? And it reminds me again and again how fragile not only life is, but our shared experience, which we call society. How fragile our society is, and how we must force ourselves every single day to apply every bit of energy possible to maintain a sense of safety and decorum in the grandest sense of all, so that other people are not afraid, so that other people know that they're being heard and heeded and listened to and given a forum to share their thoughts, which is our understanding of loving God. That each and every person will listen to everybody else within the Jewish theme across the entire world, with an expanded theme across the entire world, simultaneously and collectively. And that's how we come to know God and to love God and to fulfill our relationship with God. And the next part is that if I lose hold of the Shema, the idea of listening and being heard, then I don't know what else I'll have. And that's why I'm afraid. So I'm asking you to say a prayer with me, which is on the handouts. It begins with make the power of. It's the handout, make the power of. Make the power of the selfish disappear from all lands. May those who attack people everywhere stumble and fail, and may their plans be as naught. Stop them soon, bimheira biyamenu, in our days. Teach us to consider the needs of people who are different from ourselves. Help us to prioritize the needs of others. Remind us daily that all are descended from Eve and Adam, and all people are children of the divine. Embolden us to be strong on behalf of the weak, confident on behalf of the scared, capable for those who lack ability, organized for those who do not know how to organize, gentle to those who are vulnerable, caring to those who have no one else. Instill purity within our hearts, that we bring dignity to those who are trivialized. Encourage us to stand by the people who are alone. May you give to all peoples strength and will to pursue righteousness and uproot violence, and to seek peace as a unified force. Hear us this day, God of all life, God of your people Israel. Ken yehi ratzon. May this be the divine will. We rise, Aleinu, page 56. Yehuda?
Alenu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotse bereshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishbehot hadama, shelo sam haukenu kam, vegor alenu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim, umishtachavim humodim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notei shamayim veyosed haaretz umoshav yikaro b'shamayim mimal ushkinatu zo begave meromim hu Eloheinu einod emet malkeinu efezulato Kakatu betorato, fedatayom v'hashavota el bavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, hashamayim mimal, ve'al haaretz mitat einod. Tutoratecha Adonai yimloch lelam vayed v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad ushmo echad.
Shkoyach Yehuda, thank you. Mourner's Kaddish in a moment on page 58. On this Shabbat, we remember with great love Dr. William Levy, Anna Kramer, Lazard Leon Loeb, Morris Sonnenschein, Jesse Weinstein, Lawrence Blanchard, Joseph Golden, Madeline Starkman, Herman Hershkovitz, Helen Muchnick Small, Jay Casper, Morris Young, Cindy Shatton, Ike Kravitz, Paulette Rips, Dr. Norman Berger, Abe Feldman, Carl Lips. Are there any other names to mention this evening? And perhaps those joining in at home have a name to mention as well. Excuse me. Yitkadon v'yitkadash shemei rabbah be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chaye chon v'yom echon v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach la'olam ol'olmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudusha richu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'ami ran ba'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mravav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. When we say Ve'imru Amen, what we're saying is that whoever's leading the service, everybody else pay attention enough to say Amen. And that translates to you have to pay attention. You've got to listen to the people who are saying the Kaddish. So it's not just the Shema that speaks of listening. The Kaddish says, listen to the people who are grieving or are marking a dramatic loss in their lives. We have to tune ourselves to others. And then after the service, hopefully we'll go up for a moment and extend a word of comfort. That's the holiness of the Kaddish, to listen to each other. We have such depth in our Jewish tradition. May we take hold of the riches that have been handed down to us from the centuries gone by. And may those who are grieving know they are being heard and listened and thought of in love. A couple of quick reminders. Number one, Shabbos morning service is tomorrow. Without Yehuda, what a shame. But we'll marshal on. We'll march forward anyway. And Monday, Tanaka's on Zoom. Excuse me, please. I think that's it for right now. Just a couple of reminders to pay attention to people throughout our communities, people whom you know, people whom you may not know. That needs to be the takeaway for this Shabbat. And after we conclude, we'll be making Kiddush. We have an oneg. Anytime Yehuda comes, we have an oneg in honor of Yehuda's leading us in Shir and Ruach. Todah Rabah Yehuda. And Sherry for bringing Yehuda here, making sure he's here on time. We appreciate it. We'll make Kiddush in the social hall. I asked Yehuda to conclude in a special way. And Yehuda, would you introduce this piece that you're going to conclude with?
So this is a song I fell in love with a few weeks ago, and I had to learn it. And it basically just uses Superman as an analogy for integrity and morality and doing the right thing even when you don't have to. That's what I take away from this. Tarzan wasn't a ladies' man. He'd just come along and scoop 'em up under his arm like that, quick as a cat in the jungle. And Clark Kent, now there was a real gent. He would not be caught sitting around in no jungle scape, dumb as an ape doing nothing. Superman never made any money saving the world from Solomon Grundy. And sometimes I despair the world will never see another man like him. Hey Bob, Soup had a straight job, even though he could have smashed through any bank in the United States. He had the strength, but he would not. And folks said his family were all dead. Planet crumbled, but Superman, he forced himself to carry on. Forget Krypton and keep going. Superman never made any money saving the world from Solomon Grundy. And sometimes I despair the world will never see another man like him. And Tarzan was king of the jungle and lord over all the apes. But he could hardly string together 4 words. I, Tarzan, you, Jane. And sometimes when Soup was stopping crimes, I'll bet that he was tempted to just quit and turn his back on man and join Tarzan in the forest. But he stayed in the city and kept on changing clothes and dirty old phones till his work was through. Had nothing to do but go on home. Superman never made any money saving the world from Solomon Grundy. And sometimes I despair the world will never see another man like him. And sometimes I despair the world will never see another man